I never imagined starting from zero would lead to my life-changing entrepreneurial journey. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The world felt like it was crumbling all around me. I could barely breathe through the heavy silence. My hands trembled as I stared at the cluttered desk, bills piled high like a mountain of despair. How had it come to this? Each photograph on the wall felt like a distant memory, everyone smiling wide, while I was drowning in sorrow. My parents had always encouraged me to chase my dreams, yet it seemed so far away now. I wanted to build something beautiful, something that would make them proud. Instead, I was broke and lost, living in a cramped studio that felt more like a prison than a home that I could hear the echoes of laughter from the neighbors. But here I was, wrapped in solitude. No friends knocking for coffee, no cheerful sounds, just the ticking clock, mocking me. The darkness was suffocating, pulling me down deeper every day. I closed my eyes, wishing for a spark of inspiration, something to ignite the flame inside. Then, one rainy evening, everything changed. I found an old notebook buried under a pile of old receipts. Flipping through it, I stumbled upon wild, half-formed ideas. I could feel the energy shift. What if I took a leap, turned those jumbled thoughts into something real? The urge to try consumed me, but fear lingered close. With each passing day, I juggled menial jobs, piecing together money, but my heart raced with a growing excitement. The ink in my pen flowed like a river, ideas splattering onto the pages. I grabbed my phone, desperately reaching out to anyone who might listen. There were no guarantees, but the thought of taking that leap made my heart race. But as I gathered the courage to share my dream, a dark corner of my mind whispered doubts. Everyone else seemed to have it figured out. What in the world was I thinking? Would the world laugh at my ambition? The fear clawed at me, but the spark of hope flickered even brighter. Was this the change I needed, or just a path to more heartache? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Doubt had nestled itself around me like a heavy fog, thick and suffocating, but the flicker of hope ignited a flicker of determination. I knew I needed a plan, a safety net woven from my chaotic thoughts and dreams. It started with late nights and endless lists who could help me, who might believe in me, and what steps I needed to take. The following morning, I woke with a resolve that felt both alien and exhilarating. I grabbed my notebook and headed to the local cafe, where the comforting scent of coffee danced through the air. As I settled at a corner table, surrounded by strangers deep in conversation, I felt a peculiar sense of community enveloping me. I was no longer alone. Here was a tapestry of lives woven together, each thread a unique story. With every sip of coffee, I poured piece by piece of myself into my ideas, sketching out a business plan that felt both thrilling and terrifying. Just as I was losing myself in my thoughts, a soft voice interrupted. "That looks interesting. Are you building something?" I looked up to find a woman in her late 50s, her eyes warm and inviting. There was kindness in her gaze that made me hesitant yet curious. I stammered an explanation, something between pride and hesitance gripping my throat. To my surprise, she listened intently, nodding as I spoke about my ideas and ambitions. "Maya," she said, extending her hand. "I once started a gallery from scratch. If you ever want to bounce ideas around, I'd be happy to help." Her offer was unexpected, a ray of light breaking through my clouds of despair. Emboldened by our brief interaction, I began making calls with Maya's encouragement echoing in my heart. Each conversation brought the flicker of my dreams closer to reality. I spoke with potential partners and mentors, some unsure, but others fascinated. A small but encouraging wave of support began to build, and for the first time in months, the burden felt lighter. But as the days turned into weeks, shadows lurked ever closer. My finances, though manageable for now, were a constant specter, an uninvited guest. I sat at my kitchen table one night, the flickering candle casting dancing shadows, when the weight of uncertainty crashed down on me. What would happen when my meager savings ran out? That question haunted my every thought. The moment I allowed it to permeate my resolve, it froze my heart. A sinking feeling settled in my stomach, and I glanced at my phone, tempted to call a friend. But the isolation I had wrapped around myself felt thicker now than ever. All the connections I'd built seemed flimsy against the tide of fear threatening to drown me. And just as I was spiraling deeper into that pit, a notification buzzed on my phone. It was a message from Maya. I saw a contest for emerging entrepreneurs, with a small grant attached. Maybe it's worth exploring? The sudden glimmer of a lifeline drew me back. I felt my heart race, and for the first time in a while, I found myself smiling. Maybe this was the opportunity one needed. I threw on a light jacket and stepped outside, the cool air refreshing as I walked under the streetlights, my mind racing with possibilities. But when I returned, there was an ominous message waiting in my inbox, a rejection from one of my potential collaborators. Instead of the encouragement I hoped for, it read like a punch in the gut. Thank you for your interest, but we are currently unable to pursue your proposal. The glow of hope dimmed as quickly as it had lit up my world. On the brink of tears, I slumped against the wall, the echoes of my dreams fading into the shadows once more. Just then, a knock shattered the pervasive silence, and my breath caught in my throat. I opened the door to find a familiar face from years ago, Emma, my childhood friend, whose vibrant laughter had been a balm for my soul during our youth. Her eyes mirrored the concern I felt, yet they held something else, a depth I hadn't anticipated. That I saw your name in the news, and I couldn't believe it. I thought you could use a friend, she said softly, her smile both comforting and painful. The world might have felt bleak, but in this moment, I felt a stir of possibility. Yet, as the door creaked open wider, I spotted something behind her. A strange figure loomed in the shadows, obscured and silent. Before I could utter a word, Emma glanced back, her expression taut with apprehension. Something was amiss. Would she help lift me from the darkness? Or was she here to unveil a different kind of turmoil? My mind raced as fear knotted my stomach once more. The air hung thick with unspoken words as I stood frozen in the doorway, my heart pounding against my ribcage. Emma's presence was enough to pull me from the depths of my despair, but the shadow behind her loomed larger than my uncertainties. Is everything okay? I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. Emma shifted her weight, glancing back at the figure who remained obscured by the darkness. Yes, she replied, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I just thought you might want some company. I didn't mean to bring anyone else. That I couldn't decipher the tension in her voice. It was as if she wanted to protect me from whatever stood behind her, yet the lingering hesitation threatened to tear us apart again. I stepped aside, the instinct to reconnect overpowering my suspicions. My door swung wide, inviting both her and the hidden figure into my fragile world. The figure stepped forward, revealing itself to be a tall man, perhaps in his 30s, with an air of confidence tempered with caution. He wore an easy smile that felt disarming, yet I sensed a storm brewing beneath the surface. Hi, I'm James, he said, extending his hand. Emma thought I could help you with your project. I have some experience with startups. I glanced at Emma, searching for reassurance, but her expression remained unreadable. I took James's hand, feeling the warmth of his grasp, wondering if it signified stability or foreboding. Thank you for coming, I replied, trying to mask my wariness with politeness. As we settled on the couches that hugged the walls of my small living room, I filled the space with the tremulous outline of my dreams, pouring out my business ideas and hopes. Emma listened intently, her eyes flickering with pride as I shared my vision. In that moment, I felt the shadows recede, replaced by a burgeoning warmth. James chimed in with thoughtful suggestions, weaving his experiences into the fabric of my plans. His insights were sharp, encouraging ideas that branched outward like wildflowers reaching for sunlight. For the first time in weeks, my excitement was rekindled. But then, as the conversation flowed, Emma grew fidgety, stealing glances at her watch as if she were battling some invisible clock. My heart sank with a pang of confusion. Was she truly here to support me, or was she tethered to something more pressing? Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted when James asked, Emma, is everything all right? You seem a bit distracted. A tension cracked in the air, and Emma forced a laugh that echoed hollowly. Just a lot on my mind. It'll be fine. I wanted to press her for more, but the weight of James' eager attention pulled me back. We dove deeper into the discussion, but every time I glanced at Emma, I caught her staring out of the window, her face a mask of uncertainty. The chaotic rhythm of my thoughts fused with the hope ignited by my new connections. Eventually, we wrapped up, and as James stood up, he offered his business card. "I'd love to help you further, maybe brainstorm some more ideas. You have something unique here, and you shouldn't be afraid to showcase it." The sincerity in his voice was intoxicating, but I caught Emma's eye, a silent plea that contrasted sharply with the path I was slowly envisioning as they left. I felt a flicker of triumph in my chest, while an undercurrent of dread pulled at my heels. A fresh wind had blown into my life, but its gusts carried unfamiliar sense of complication. Maya was right, I thought. This contest could be my chance. Yet, as I sat down to dive into the details, the nagging voice of doubt began its insidious whisper again. After a few minutes of frantic typing, I received another notification. My stomach twisted. Another rejection? Instead, it was a message from a close friend, Sarah, inviting me for dinner. A glimmer of warmth amidst my spiraling thoughts. As I stood on the precipice of that decision, another cold shiver rippled down my spine. The sound from outside my apartment caught my attention. There was a car idling ominously beneath the streetlight. I peered closer, squinting through the window, and my heart stopped. A figure lingered by the vehicle, long hair blown by the wind, their face partially obscured by shadows, yet their stance was unmistakable. It was him, Tom, my last partner, the ghost of my past failure that loomed large. My breath hitched as adrenaline coursed through my veins. What was he doing here? I had thought I left those haunted memories behind, but now they were clawing their way back into my present. I stepped back, the invitation to joy colliding with the looming threat of unresolved chaos. This proved to be yet another fork in the road, forcing me to choose. Did I embrace the unfamiliar, the flickering hopes of the day, or would I confront the dark familiarity of my past waiting outside, ready to pull me under once more? I stood motionless, my heart racing as the familiar dread washed over me, blanketing my thoughts in confusion. After everything, my past had come knocking. Tom's presence set me on fire, igniting both fear and resentment, a volatile mix that threatened to engulf my determination. How could he show up here now? I took a deep breath, each inhale a desperate attempt to quell the surge of memories that threatened to drown me. The mistakes, the regret, the late nights filled with uncertainty where Tom's voice had been the echo of my self-doubt rang louder than ever. He had walked away, leaving me struggling to piece my dreams back together. And now he stood there, a specter of what once was. Emma's gentle voice flitted through my memory, reminding me of the hope that had flickered to life during our earlier conversation. I could almost feel her warm smile urging me to overcome my fears. But it was one thing to embrace hope in a vision, and another entirely to face the specter of my past. Stay or go, I whispered to myself, battling the sides of my heart. But before I could make a choice, the sound of tires crunching on gravel pulled me from my thoughts. Tom's car door creaked open, and he stepped out, his head held high but his eyes masking uncertainty. I felt the urge to open the window and demand answers, but my body was frozen in indecision. Suddenly, my phone vibrated, breaking the tense silence. It was a message from Sarah, affirming her dinner invitation and mentioning a new recipe she had been dying to share. I could picture her bright smile, the warmth of her home enveloping me, a sanctuary from the chaos outside. Just get it together, I told myself, slipping my phone back into my pocket as I approached the door to the outside world. My hand hovered over the doorknob, hesitating before I steeled myself with one final breath and opened the door. What do you want? I managed to say, my voice steadying amidst the whirlwind. Tom looked caught off guard, surprise flickering across his face, but he quickly regained composure. I came to see how you've been, he said, his tone measured. I didn't expect you to shut me out forever. I blinked once, twice, the words leaving a bitter taste on my tongue. You made your choice the last time we were here, Tom. The truth poured out like venom. You walked away without looking back. Why now? Tom ran a hand through his hair, frustration etched on his brow. I messed up, I know, but I'd like to think we can have a conversation. I did care, Maya. Care? I scoffed, rage bubbling beneath the surface. If you cared, you would have stayed, not left me in pieces. He shifted closer, the gap narrowing as shadows intertwined with the dim glow of the streetlight. You're right. I didn't handle things well. But I've been thinking a lot about our time together. I know I hurt you, but I've changed? I cut him off, my pulse racing. That's just talk. You have no idea what I've been through since then. As I stood my ground, allowing pent-up frustration to spill over, I felt a tiny flicker of hope. In the whirlwind of agony and disappointment surrounding Tom, I had grown. My voice was no longer trembling beneath the weight of my past. It stood strong, ready to confront the lingering shadows. We exchanged a charged silence. And then something unexpected happened. The world around us faded while the air thickened with contemplation. I could see the regret behind his eyes, and perhaps, just maybe, he meant what he said. Before I could excuse the thoughts fluttering through my mind, Emma's voice broke through the tension, startling me. She had returned, her expression caught between concern and determination. Maya, I thought ID at the sight of Tom, her brow knitted in confusion. What's happening? Her arrival injected the moment with a sense of urgency. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, expecting a protective nature to flare to life and shove Tom back into obscurity. But what if I needed this confrontation to truly heal? Did I deserve the power to rewrite my own narrative? Tom turned toward Emma, his demeanor shifting. I'm just trying to talk to Maya. We have some things to settle. The weight of her gaze shifted to me. I could see questions bubbling beneath the surface. Would she support me in confronting my past, or would she pull me back to safety, reinforcing the barriers I had erected to safeguard my heart? Stay out of this, I said, the words tinged with an unexpected edge of desperation. You don't have to face this alone, Maya, Emma replied gently, concern softening her features. I'm here for you. Am I supposed to embrace him like some long-lost friend? I shot back defensively, as if the very notion could insult my perseverance. The silence unfurled between us like an unraveling thread, filled with fear and uncertainty. For a moment, the turbulence in me clamored for resolution, but I realized the truth. This was my battle to fight, my past to face. That Tom's voice cut through the tension once more. I came here hoping I could help, Maya. I want to be there for you, but I also respect your choice. As I stood at this fork in the road, feeling the pulse of unresolved feelings racing through my veins, I knew a decision loomed before me. Between the chaos of familiarity and the unknown promise of change, with every heartbeat, the room felt smaller and heavier. The walls of my past edged ever closer, but out there lay a door to navigating uncharted territory. The flicker of hope hung in the air like a tapestry woven with resilience. But would I choose to seize it or slide back into blind nostalgia? Talk, I finally said, my voice steady with conviction. But know this, if we're going to do this, I need you to be real with me. No more shadows, no more games. The future shimmered on the horizon, a bright and beckoning blur, one step leading to another in a path yet uncharted. The shadows were deep, they clung like stubborn memories. But as I embraced the confrontation ahead, I felt a surge of empowerment rise within me. I was willing to dive into the unknown after all. I had fought too hard to let fear of the past inhibit my future. As they began to speak, I caught Emma's eyes, and in that moment of understanding, I saw the flicker of something more, a friendship bound by the courage to confront our truths together. And then there was the ring of my phone once again, another unexpected twist, a notification that sent a thrill of tension coursing through me. I picked up and glanced at the screen. My heart sank when I read the message: an invitation, a warning, or maybe something darker. You need to watch your back. I know you're on the brink of something, but don't trust anyone. My breath hitched as the layers of uncertainty folded back over me, darkness roaring anew. The depth of my emotional journey tightened around me like a vice, leaving me gasping for the light of hope, its illuminating glow muffled by threat's shadows I could not fully comprehend. The battle lines had been drawn, the stakes had risen, and I had no idea what lay ahead. The message hung in the air, heavy and foreboding, like an anchor pulling me down into an abyss of confusion. The room around me blurred, the faces of Tom and Emma fading momentarily as my mind raced, processing the implications of those words. The urgency tethered my heart in place, while a million questions erupted behind my eyes. Who sent this? What did they know about me, Maya? Emma's voice broke through the fog, concern lacing her tone. What's wrong? I looked at her, searching her eyes for the comfort and grounding I so desperately needed. Yet the swirling uncertainty dimmed the well of strength I had just begun to draw from. I just received a message, I managed to say, though my throat felt constricted with fear. What does it say? Tom leaned closer, his earlier bravado replaced by a genuine intrigue that gave me pause. I hesitated, the weight of my next words hanging like lead in my throat. Was I prepared to share my vulnerabilities with Tom? It's someone's warning me, I finally said, my voice trembling. It doesn't say who? Emma pressed gently, stepping forward with an intimacy I found reassuring. Just that I should be careful and not trust anyone. I glanced at Tom, gauging his reaction, but the flicker of concern in his eyes was mixed with something else. Caution, perhaps. Do you think it's related to me? Tom asked, the earnestness in his voice disarming. I shook my head, battling the swirling emotions within me: anger, fear, a strange curiosity. I have no idea. But why now? Why at this moment? We can't let this derail our conversation, Emma interjected, her practical nature surfacing. You can't let fear control you. Whatever is happening outside, you're not alone. Talk to him. I took a deep breath, the warmth of her support wrapping around me like a shield. Perhaps this confrontation was not just about Tom. It was about me reclaiming my narrative, grasping at the threads of my past, while still forging ahead into the uncertainty of the future. Okay, I said slowly, anchoring myself. I want to know why you're here, Tom. If you truly want to help, I need everything on the table. Slowly, he nodded, the earlier bravado fading into sincerity. I've been doing a lot of reflecting since I left. Having time to think about my decisions made me realize how reckless I was when I chose to walk away. His voice quivered at the edges, and for the first time, he seemed fragile, like a man grappling with shadows of his own. Reckless? I scoffed, but my anger was a mere flicker. The truth was the tones in his voice tugged at a deeper part of my heart. You left me alone in the aftermath. I had to rebuild everything. You don't know what that cost me. Tom winced, and I felt a swift jolt of satisfaction at his discomfort. Maybe this was my moment of power, allowing him to feel the weight of the loss I had lived through. I know. He spoke softly, his gaze locked onto mine. I can never fully comprehend the pain I caused you. But Maya, I've started working on myself. After I left, I didn't just forget. It haunted me. I'm here to make amends. I owe you that much. Silence stretched between us, a tenuous bond woven with frayed memories and unspoken promises. Emma remained beside me, a steady presence amidst the tension, urging me to remember the resolve I'd just reclaimed. Amends? I echoed, contemplating the word. A small flame of hope flickered within that thought, battling against the doubts that clouded my heart. Could someone really change? Could I dare to allow him back into my life? But I was still caught in a web of uncertainty. And what about this message? Is it just a coincidence? My voice trembled slightly, the fear spilling back in. I don't know, Tom admitted, his face shadowed. But you deserve to be protected, and I'll do everything in my power to help you. Before I could respond, Emma reached out and squeezed my hand. Maybe whoever sent that message is aware of something we're not. We should investigate it together. The word together twisted in my chest, bursting against the pressure of isolation that had become familiar. Maybe this was a chance not just to confront the past but to face the present together, to welcome camaraderie back into my life. I'll think about it, I stammered, though conviction wavered in my tone. Just then, a sound echoed in the distance, the turbulent rumble of an approaching storm, the first drops of rain splattering softly against the concrete. It was disconcerting, unearthing an instinct that told me this was only the beginning. Let's get inside, Emma said, glancing anxiously toward the darkening sky. As we turned, a deep anxiety settled in my gut, a gnawing sensation that I had just crossed a threshold I could never retreat from. And in that moment, through the unfurling storm clouds, I couldn't shake the shadow of the approaching danger. It loomed like an unanswered question. With a final look back at Tom, I felt a mix of trepidation and determination crystallizing within me. What I had believed to be a mere handle on my past was now evolving into something far more complicated. As we stepped inside, the storm unleashed its fury, drowning out our voices. But beneath the roar of the rain, Something stirred, a symphony of unresolved emotions calling me to action, challenging me to decipher truths hidden beneath layers of fear and hope. And then, just as the door clicked shut behind us, my phone vibrated again. This time, the screen lit up with a message that made my heart plummet once more. They are watching you. Don't trust anyone. The words reverberated in my mind, pulling me deeper into a spiral of uncertainty. I was no longer just standing at the crossroads of my past. I was venturing into uncharted territory, and every step forward would reveal how far I was willing to go. The weight of the latest message hung over me like a leaden cloud. They are watching you. Don't trust anyone. My heart raced as the rain poured down outside, the world growing blurred and chaotic through the window. Everything felt wrong, yet strangely alive. The air crackled with possibility and danger, mingling into an unstable cocktail that left me breathless. Tom's eyes widened as he watched my phone, and I suddenly felt exposed. The very act of sharing my fear, turning it into a tangible thing that could not be ignored. You should report it, he urged, his voice steady despite the anxiety etched on his face. I've already felt like a prisoner in my own life, I argued, the defiance spilling out before I could check it. What good would that do? It would just put me in a spotlight that I don't want to be in. Maya, this is serious, Emma interjected, her voice tinged with worry. Whoever sent that message knows something we don't. We need to protect you. Protect me? Or maybe they're trying to intimidate me. I snapped back, my voice shaky but resolute. The last remnants of my fragile peace threatened to crumble under the pressure. What if reporting it makes everything worse? Then we'll find our own way to deal with it, Tom said, his brows furrowing in determination. You don't have to do this alone. I took a step back, suddenly overwhelmed by the reality of their concern. Their intentions were genuine, but with every gesture of kindness came a deeply rooted fear, churning inside me like a restless sea. I forced a weak smile, reluctant to fully acknowledge the gravity of what surrounded us. Okay, maybe I need some space to think, I murmured, backing away from the group. The safe distance momentarily eased my anxiety, though I still felt tethered by the invisible strings of my past choices. As I turned, the rain hammered against the walls, a relentless assault mirroring the tempest brewing within me. My instinct screamed at me to push away the very people who wanted to help, not wanting to drag them into the chaos of my life as unworthy as it felt. Yet, with every heartbeat, the warmth of their presence called to me. Maya, Emma's voice broke through the storm, softer, more vulnerable than before. You don't have to carry this alone. We're in this together, remember? It was an offer, a lifeline thrown in turbulent waters. Against my better judgment, I nodded, the flickering flame of hope igniting once more, its light seeking to illuminate the dark caverns of my self-imposed isolation. But how much could I really lean on them without dragging them into danger? I felt like a fragile glass vase teetering at the edge of a table, vulnerable and precarious. In a moment of vulnerability, I turned to Tom. What if this is just the beginning? What if it gets worse? I asked, the edges of panic beginning to fray my composure. I don't know, he said, and the sincerity in his voice cut through my haze. But I promise to stand by you. We'll figure this out together. There was conviction there, a quiet stubbornness that both annoyed and comforted me. The lights flickered, casting shadows that danced along the walls like haunting memories. My phone buzzed again, and trepidation smothered any warmth that momentarily laced through the air. The wallpaper of my heart felt like a ticking clock ready to shatter under the weight of uncertainty. Why are they watching me? I whispered, more to myself than anyone else. My voice trembled, the pieces of my mind crashing together like waves against a cliff. I'll dig into it, Tom said, his resolve turning my despair into determination. We'll figure out who this is, and we'll make sure you're safe. Before I could muster a response, the door burst open, an unexpected gust of wind, thrusting rainwater into the room, sending shockwaves through my soul. Stumbling back, I barely registered the figure standing in the doorway, drenched and breathless. Jordan? Emma exclaimed, her eyes wide with a mix of relief and concern. What are you doing here? It was my brother, unexpected and untimely, his expression clouded with panic. I saw you go inside. I had to. Make sure you were okay. I just got a call saying someone is looking for you, Maya. My stomach dropped as Jordan's words sliced through the air. My mind raced, trying to piece together just how much danger I was truly in. The storm outside intensified, threatening to drown us all in a tide of uncertainty. "What do you mean someone is looking for me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, every nerve in my body alight with fear. "Just get your things. We need to go. Now," Jordan urged, urgency shaking his voice. Panic surged within me. "Why? Who?" "I don't know," he shouted, the desperation clawing at the edges of his composure. "But I got a call. The same person who sent that message. They've been looking. We need to get you somewhere safe. As the rain beat down like a war drum, I faced the reality crashing in around me. The walls that had held my fears, my secrets, and my grief were beginning to close in. How had it come to this? I sent a frantic look to Tom and Emma. They were stepping forward, eyes filled with more concern than before, but the looming threat overshadowed everything else. This chaos was far from over. I was tangled in a web from which I could not easily escape. Just then, another message chimed in, the screen flickering back to life. "You can't hide from the truth. They're closer than you think." As comprehension dawned painfully, I felt the floors shift beneath meth ground of my existence trembling as I took a step back into the unknown. Whatever was unfolding, I was not alone in this fight. But there would be scars. This path leading into darkness was as steep as it was claustrophobic. In that terrifying moment, I knew my life had irrevocably changed, and there would be no turning back. My world had spun onto a precipice, and the only way forward now lay in embracing the unknown. The tension in the air thickened as the pounding rain transformed into a symphony of chaos outside, my brother's words reverberating through the space like an electric charge. Each heartbeat quickened the pulse of dread coursing through my veins. The threat was no longer an intangible concept. It was real, immediate, and creeping closer by the second. "Maya, we need to go. Now." Jordan's voice was firm, yet the tremor beneath it betrayed his own fear. My instincts screamed at me to follow his lead, but the weight of uncertainty kept me anchored, rooted in a place where I felt both threatened and strangely safe. I felt settled beside Tom and Emma, whose worried faces reflected my own unease. Where do we go?" My voice wavered, caught between urgency and paralyzing fear. "Just outside of town. I have a friend," who Jordan started, but I could see the way his gaze darted nervously toward the door. There was an urgency in his demeanor that made the panic in my chest bubble like a pot on the verge of boiling over. "Why can't you just tell me what's happening?" I couldn't keep the desperation from coloring my tone. "What do they want from me?" "I don't have all the answers," he said sharply, swallowing hard as he glanced over his shoulder. "But we need to move now. I don't want to put you at risk by staying here any longer." The air felt electric, laden with a foreboding weight that settled over my shoulders like a heavy cloak. I turned to Tom and Emma, searching their eyes for solidarity and decision. I had fought so hard against this, wanting desperately to keep them at arm's length from the storm brewing. But now, with the walls crumbling down around us, that option felt like a treacherous mirage. "Maya, you can't face this alone," Emma urged, stepping closer, clasping my hands tightly in hers. "We'll figure it out together," I promised. As if struck by lightning, the storm exploded outside, drowning the air with a ferocious roar. I shuddered at its ferocity, the wildness of nature echoing the tumult inside me. "What if we can't?" I whispered, my voice breaking with the weight of despair. "Then we will make our own path," Tom insisted, his presence a stabilizing force. "Whatever or whoever is coming, we'll face it together." That flicker of hope wavered stubbornly against the engulfing dark, coaxing me toward the light. "What if it's not safe for you?" I blurted out, the protective instinct surfacing despite my fear. "What if we're already in this, Maya?" Jordan interrupted, his tone fierce yet tender. "We're in this together, damn it. I won't let anyone touch you." And just like that, the walls of my defenses began to crumble, revealing the raw vulnerability I had fought so hard to shield. With a glance shared among us, my heart soared. Perhaps I wasn't the fragile glass ornament I feared I was. Maybe I could be made of something stronger, something unbreakable. But before we could act, the door behind Jordan, still ajar, swung open violently, as if compelled by unseen hands, and darkness poured in. "Maya," a disembodied voice echoed through the silence, chilling my very core. That I staggered back, frustration and panic swirling in a violent tempest inside me as I turned to find the source. An unfamiliar yet haunting figure loomed in the doorway, a silhouette framed by the flashing lightning outside, casting long shadows that danced ominously across the room. "Who are you?" I hoarsely demanded, feeling Jordan shift in front of me, defensively. My heart was a drum in my chest, each beat pounding with urgency. "I have what you need, Maya," the figure said, their voice smooth, almost hypnotic. "You know why I'm here." Every instinct arched in warning and fear. This was not the consolation I had anticipated. "I don't know you. Do you really think you can keep running from the past? You've been chosen, Maya." There was a sinister calmness in their words, echoing through the frantic space. "You'll have to face it eventually." I stumbled backward, my thoughts racing as dread engulfed every rational thought. This wasn't just some random threat. It was something deeper, a darker undercurrent that pulled at the very foundations of my reality. "No," Jordan barked, stepping in front of me, fists clenched, ready to defend against a perceived danger that loomed larger than life. But even as he stood strong, my mind reeled with the implications of the figure's words. Chosen? What did that even mean? My past had clawed its way into my present, and I was trapped in a labyrinth built by secrets and shadows. An echo resounded in the room, a whispered promise from the figure that I couldn't quite grasp. A promise born of fear and an unshakable truth. As the air began to thicken around us, I felt the weight of my choices pressing down with unbearable ferocity, shrouding me in an uncertainty that threatened to swallow me whole. Time slowed as I took a shaky breath, poised on the precipice of a life-altering decision. With the rain still crashing down around us, I stood at the edge of my past, the words of the stranger ringing like bells tolling in the distance. And as hope flickered dimly like a candle before a storm, I knew the next steps would either lead us out of this frightened darkness or plunge us deeper into chaos. One thing was for certain. I had to confront whatever lay ahead, no matter the cost. The truth was calling out for me in the shadows, and I could no longer ignore it. With each passing moment, the weight of the stranger's words wrapped around me like chains, constricting my thoughts and blurring my vision. "Chosen," I muttered under my breath, trying to dissect the meaning behind the proclamation. Who had decided that I was somehow special, destined for something greater or darker? Jordan's posture never wavered. He remained a ferocious wall shielding me from the unknown. The tension between us was palpable, a thick veil woven of fear and determination. Tom and Emma stood back, their eyes darting in search of an opportunity or an escape, caught between the abyss and my unscripted fate. "Stay back." Jordan barked at the figure, his voice trembling just enough to betray the fear simmering beneath his bravado. The silhouette took a step forward, the dim light reflecting in their eyes, revealing an unsettling clarity. It was a face I would never forget, a blending of familiarity and estrangement that felt both inviting and menacing. "Maya," the figure said, their tone lowering to a conspiratorial hush, "you think you're hiding from your truth. But the choices you make now will either bind you to what you fear or liberate you from the shackles of your past." I tried to grasp the flames of hope rising from their words, but anxiety clawed at me, its claws sharp and relentless. "I don't even know what you're talking about." "What truth?" My voice cracked, betraying the panic roiling within. "Your lineage," the figure said, almost tenderly, their gaze piercing into mine. "You are part of something far more significant than you understand. Your family has a history that links you to purposes beyond this world." Each word felt like a blow, igniting a flood of memories that surged forth. Faded photographs, whispered conversations, gnarled family trees that hardly resembled the present. Questions bubbled in a boiling pot of confusion. What had I really walked away from? "We have no time for this," Jordan growled, stepping forward defiantly, his resolve tightening like a coiled spring. "Get away from her. Do you think you can shield her forever, Jordan?" The figure's voice dripped with an unsettling calm, their eyes set on me as if gauging my reaction, my loyalty, my hesitation. "The storm outside reflects the storm within her. The truth will emerge, one way or another." Emma's eyes widened. "What does that even mean?" she asked, her voice shaking as she clung tightly to my arm as if the connection could fortify my resolve. Before I could respond, the rumble of thunder outside rattled the windows, sending a shiver through our collective bravado. It was a reminder that despite our reluctance to engage with the figure, reality was closing in, inching ever closer with every minute passed. It means you do not have much time, Maya, the figure continued, undeterred by the uproar outside. The longer you wait, the stronger the entities tied to your past become. They are coming for you, drawn by your growing fear and reluctance to accept the truth. Entities? What are you talking about? I pressed, desperation lacing my words. I want to get away from all this. From everything, and running is exactly what they want. They replied, their expression softening. But you must understand, there is another path. A path that requires bravery, your bravery. As I searched their eyes, a flicker of genuine compassion swelled within me, a connection that twisted my fear into something else, into a silent yearning for answers. Maya, Jordan urged, his voice softer now, his steady gaze searching mine. You don't have to listen to this, whatever this is. We can leave. We can create our own destiny, far away from whatever shadows linger here. You think I haven't wanted to do just that? I retorted, my voice rising in frustration. But the more I run, the more my past pulls at me, like a weight I can't throw off. I'm tired of feeling different and cursed. The figure held out their hand, and for a fleeting moment, I saw the humanity underneath the obscure threat. They represented a glimmer of understanding that beckoned me closer. You won't truly be free until you confront the darkness. Inside and out, Maya. Your past may be haunting, but it also holds the key to your liberation. In that moment, the storm outside swelled, rain pouring down with renewed intensity, drowning everything else but the sound of my racing heart. The weight of my choices hung there, heavy and suffocating, and despite the uncertainty, the allure of truth flashed like a beacon. But then came the knock, the loud, insistent rapping against the door behind us, jarring my focus. My heart plummeted as I turned, dread pooling in my gut. It was the kind of knock that signaled urgency, the kind that brought with it trepidation and imminent confrontation. I stepped back instinctively, Jordan's protective stance blocking more than just the figure. It shielded my heart, which now thudded violently against my rib cage. The room's air thickened with questions left unanswered, the tension coiling tighter. Who is it? Emma whispered, terror coursing through her voice, mirroring the worry glimmering in Tom's wide eyes. That I don't know. I breathed, the realization dawning like an unwelcomed guest. The uncertainty jarred every thought I had, trapping us like mice in a storm. With every heartbeat echoing my fear, I turned back to the figure, my mind racing down dark paths. If I choose to confront this truth, are you saying I have allies? Help? You possess it within you, Maya, they insisted, their voice resolute. But it hinges on your acceptance of what is. You must choose who you want to be as this plays out. Will you face it or flee and allow the darkness to consume you? I swallowed hard, feeling the pressure build around me. But suddenly, with that knock resounding, I no longer had the luxury of choice. My heart raced to the rhythm of uncertainty, and as the door creaked ominously open, I braced myself for whatever fate awaited me on the other side. Would it bring hope or devastation? The only thing I knew for certain was that a storm rolled in, and I was caught in its center. The door swung open slowly, revealing not a figure cloaked in shadows, but a silhouette draped in uncertainty that instantly sent a wave of confusion rippling through the room. Lila stood there, soaked from the downpour, her hair plastered against her forehead and fear etched in her features. In that moment, she seemed less like the girl I once knew and more a ghost from my past that I couldn't quite shake. Maya, you need to come with me, Lila urged, her voice threaded with urgency that cracked the tension like a thunderclap. It's not safe here. They're looking for you. Jordan stiffened, his instinctive protectiveness flaring. Who's looking for her? What the hell is going on? They came after me too, Lila gasped, stumbling over her words, her eyes darting behind her as if she feared being followed. It's related to what we've lost. Confusion spiraled dangerously in my mind, twisting around the remnants of my trust for that past I desperately tried to escape. What do you mean? What have we lost? The remnants of shared memories tangled around the edges of my consciousness, cries for answers mingling with fear that this would unlock something I wasn't prepared to face. Please, just come with me. Lila persisted, stepping inside the threshold, her voice dropping from panicked urgency to hushed intensity. I don't have much time, and neither do you. Emotions surged within me, tangled and raw. I wanted to shake her, to demand the answers I craved. Yet, beneath all of it, a flicker of hope ignited a promise of connection to the tangled past I had tried to forget. You know something, don't you? As Lila locked eyes with me, another rumble of thunder echoed through the stormy night, rattling the walls of what little confidence I had left. It's not just about you, Maya. It's about all of us. The choices we make, the paths we take, it's all intertwined. Before I could reply, a presence filled the doorway behind Lila, and I felt the familiar prickle of fear prick my skin, the paranoia tightening its grip as I turned toward the figure that overshadowed her. The tension that had held us captive morphed into dread, a palpable darkness creeping into the space as the figure stepped forward. It was Gabrielle, an old friend turned antagonist in my mind. Yet, here he was, colliding into my current chaos like an unexpected wave crashing onto a calm shore. His satire had shifted into something darker and more pressing. I suppose you're all in this together now, he sneered, his gaze fixed on Lila before shifting to me, a knowing expression twisting his lips. Leave her out of this, Gabriel, Jordan roared, his hands clenched into fists. The protective flame within him ignited, illuminating every unfathomable worry that danced behind Yusinsafe. Unsteady, vulnerable, why should I? He shot back, his voice cutting through the weighty air like glass breaking. She's marked, just like the rest of you. You all need to understand what's at stake here before it consumes you. What are you talking about? I interjected, fear threading itself through my words. What are you and Lila hiding? What's happening to us? Enough, Lila interjected fiercely, stepping between Gabriel and me, as though shielding me from something more than just words. We have to stick together, Maya. No secrets if we're going to confront this. If we are marked, we need to understand our past to reclaim our future. A desperate chill wound around my heart, the idea of being thrust deeper into a fate I wanted to run from. But beneath that, hope shimmered slightly brighter. The unity that seemed to swell in Lila's quiet resolve pushed back against the shadows of despair gathering in the corners of my mind. As the tempest outside raged louder, I dared to reach for it. Let's unravel it. Then, I said softly, conviction blossoming as I found my ground amidst the chaos. Let's face it together. But if we're going to do this, you need to tell me everything. The bond tying us felt fragile yet fierce, hanging like a thin thread over an abyss of darkness. I glanced toward Jordan, seeking the reassurance that flickered in his eyes, but it was mixed. With terror at what I was daring to invite into our already tumultuous lives, the flickering lights around us served as a relentless reminder of how fragile safety could be. Just as Lila finally opened her mouth to share whatever secrets she held, words tumbling out like diamonds forged under pressure. Someone is coming for you. Maya, she began, the weight of her truth crashing into my chest like a tidal wave. But to understand why, we first need to face the entity tied to our past, the one that shaped our lives in ways we've never realized. The blood rushed in my ears, drowning out the tempest outside. But what grounded me was the unyielding bond shaped through shared fear, uncertainty, and a shared path, however treacherous it may be. Just as the echoes of Lilith's revelation took root in my mind, the lights flickered and then surged, sending a shockwave of energy through the room. The figure in the doorway moved smoothly forward, carving a path between shadows and presence, a looming representation of our shared past. As his eyes locked onto mine, the world shifted again, and a cold realization crashed down upon me. The path before us was one of choices, a crossroads of heart and destiny. And suddenly, the voices pulsating in my mind grew deafening, whispering warnings of what was still to come as time slipped away. I had thought I could hide from the truth, but as Lila's words washed over me, sobering and resolute, I understood. I couldn't escape what was about to unfold. More figures gathered outside, silhouetted against the blinding storm, and the air crackled with a sense of urgency, weaving our disparate lives together into a tapestry fraught with uncertainty. Prepare yourself, Maya, Gabriel warned, the weight of his expression revealing behind the bravado that there was more at stake than we could imagine. The stakes had never been clearer, and here, at this precipice, I knew I stood on the edge of my fate, whatever that fate might be. The storm outside raged with a fury that mirrored the chaos inside my heart. Shadows flickered and danced in the dim light of the room, each gust of wind pushing me closer to the precipice of a decision I had fought so hard to avoid. Lila's urgent words hung in the air, a haunting reminder of the past I had long tried to bury. "Someone is coming for you, Maya," she had said. Those words clung to me like the moisture of the rain-soaked air, heavy and suffocating. I felt the weight of her gaze, piercing through the smoke of my memories, forcing me to confront the truth I had hidden away. Jordan stood protectively beside me, his stance unyielding as he glared at Gabriel, whose looming presence felt like a shadow I couldn't escape. "What do you want from us?" Jordan demanded, the tension crackling like electricity as the storm raged outside. Gabriel shrugged, his expression betraying nothing, the smirk hinting at secrets woven through the fabric of our history. "I want nothing from you, Jordan. This is about Maya. She needs to understand what she's a part of." "A part of what?" My mind raced with questions, threads of panic weaving through my thoughts. I felt trapped in a web spun from fear and uncertainty, every choice a potential snare that could pull me under. I had fought too hard to build my life again, to cling to hope and forget the darkness that whispered in my ear. Yet here it was, wrapping around me like an old familiar blanket, inviting me to sink back into its depths. "Maya," Lila said, breaking through the storm of confusion, her voice steadier now. "The truth is that there's more to our families than we realized. We were intertwined in ways we didn't understand, marked for something different, something larger than ourselves." I stared at her, confusion mingling with a strange, sickening curiosity. "Marked how? What do you mean?" "There are forces at play that have been watching you," Gabriel interjected, leaning in slightly, his eyes glinting with a mix of mischief and sincerity. "You have something within you, an energy, a legacy. It's why they want you." I shook my head, pushing back against the tide of realization that threatened to drown me. "I don't want anything to do with this. I just want to build my life. I want peace." "Peace comes from understanding," Lila pressed. "You can't run from who you are." I turned to look at Jordan, who was shifting, his concern visible in the furrow of his brow. "Is this really happening, Maya? Is there truth in what they say?" The room fell silent as I searched for the answer in their faces. That was when the ominous knock returned harder this time, a sound that echoed through my anxiety like a tolling bell. I felt as if the storm outside had breached my resolve, flooding into this space I'd tried to fortify against uncertainty. "Answer it," Gabriel urged, a glint of challenge in his eye. "Let's see what lies beyond your door." I felt my heart race as the familiar feeling of dread washed over me, pulling me back, anchoring me to the ground. But something else flickered, to Lithian ember of courage igniting in the pit of my stomach. If I wanted to understand my past, to forge my future, I had to face whatever lay outside my door, be it threat or promise. That I stepped forward, heart pounding, my breath catching in my throat as I grasped the doorknob. The air shifted, thick with expectation both from within and beyond the threshold. "This is my choice," I whispered to myself, a mantra that steadied my shaking hands. The door opened, and there she stood, Maya, my reflection twisted by time and torment. But with her was someone unexpected, my mother, her face drawn and weary. The sight of her felt like a flash of lightning in my chest, a blend of fear and love that surged forward. "Maya," she said, her voice breaking, filled with worry. "We thought we lost you." The storm outside howled, but in that moment, the tempest within me stilled. "Mom," I whispered, "how did you know I needed you?" "I've always known," she replied, stepping forward, her eyes locking onto mine, filled with both unease and fierce protectiveness. "There are things we need to discuss, things you need to know about our family." I felt the gravity of her words settle deep into my bones, urging me to step back into my truth. This was the confrontation I had avoided for so long, the force of love battling the shadows that had haunted me since childhood. Briefly, my mind flickered to the darkness that had gripped my heart, but I knew that love was its own kind of power. "Join us," Lila urged, gesturing toward my mother. "We need to unravel this together." As my mother took my hand, warmth radiated through me, a tether to the legacy and the path ahead. The truth was unspooling before us, a thread linking the past and future, a bond born from love. "What is it?" I asked softly, allowing the weight of emotion to wash over me. What is it you still need to tell me? There are powers at play, Maya, my mother said, her voice steadying as she drew me into her embrace. For too long, we've been haunted by the choices of those before us. There are destinies intertwined with our bloodline, and it's time we face them. As she spoke, the storm quieted outside, the shadows receding like a tide drawn back. Each word filled the void left behind by fear, bringing forth acceptance and a vision of healing that spread like dawn across a dark horizon. I felt a stirring inside of me, an awakening against the chains of history that had too long held me captive in silence. This is our chance, I said, confidence flooding me as I faced Gabriel and Lila. We can rewrite our past, reclaim our legacy. We can embrace who we are. Just remember, Gabriel murmured, healing the past will not be easy. It will test you like it never has before. I nodded, determination hardening within me. But we will face it together. All of us. With one last glance outside, I took a deep breath. The path ahead shimmered as the storm gave way to a soft light breaking through the clouds. I was ready to break free from the chains of doubt and fear, no longer a prisoner of my history, but a co-author of my story. This was a moment where I found my voice amidst the echoes of all those who came before me. With love and hope guiding my path, I knew the journey was just beginning, but together we would brave the storm and emerge into the light, where my truth awaited. As I turned to my friends and family, I whispered words alight with conviction, the promise of a new beginning. Let's go find out what this truth holds. And as I stepped forward, leaving behind the shadows of fear, I felt my heart surge with an overwhelming sense of possibility. The past wouldn't define me anymore. It would merely serve as a catalyst for the future I was ready to create. In the end, I knew that love, after all, was the most powerful force of all. You are your own legacy now, my mother said, smiling brightly, the warmth of her words wrapping around us like a blanket. Let's take the next step together. With hearts entwined and resolve solidified, we ventured into the unknown, ready to embrace the journey ahead. In that moment, under a sky illuminated with hope, I vowed to myself that I would never again let fear dictate my future. Together, we would reclaim not only our past, but our place in this world, an intricate weaving of destiny, time, and love guiding us steadfastly toward the promise of tomorrow. And as we stepped out into the shining dawn, I knew that this moment would echo through the foundaries of Temia, a testament to the bravery it takes to face the deepest shadows and emerge with grace into the light. Because I was Maya, and this was just the beginning.